Welcome to Demand and Disrupt the Disability Podcast. Here, we will learn to advocate for ourselves and each other. This podcast is supported with funds from the Advocado Press, based in Louisville, Kentucky. Welcome, everyone, to Demand and Disrupt, a disability podcast. I'm here with Lisa McKinley. Hey, Lisa, how are you?
Hey, everyone. I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's October, so it's only about 87 here in Kentucky now. But at least there's hope, right?
Maybe we'll get a break soon, maybe.
Fingers crossed. So October is National Disability Employment Awareness Month. Now, tell me, did it not just used to be regular old National Disability Awareness Month? Do you know?
I think you're right. I mean, I guess they have to add the national on now for who knows what reason.
Well, it's not the national they add on, it's the employment.
Oh,
Instead of just disability awareness, now, us disabled folks it's really all about just how much productivity we can do for the man.
See, I thought it was two different things. I thought we got 2 months, but we only get one. How rude. But
as far as I know,
we get a month.
Well, July was Disability Pride Month. So there's that. And then there's International Disability Day, which is like in December. And we have some things going on for that I'll tell everyone closer to time. But so maybe I'm just being greedy. Maybe I just want too much, huh?
No, I think we should get every day.
There you go. There you go. I love it. So another thing to celebrate is that it is near or just past the 50th anniversary of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973, which I'm sure you learned all about in school, correct?
No, not at all, but I am
exactly
so happy those people, so many people paved the way for us 50 years ago.
They did.
Do you remember 50 years ago?
I do not. I was not alive 50 years ago. I was not. So there you go. But Judy Heumann, and I just think of her because she passed away very recently. We are losing a lot of our idols, those who fought these battles so that we could enjoy the rights and privileges that we have now. One thing that people can turn to, there's an excellent Netflix documentary called Crip Camp. Crip, of course, for cripple. I think they're taking back that word, using, people who are disabled and want to take back that word are doing that. And I think that's fine. So it's called Crip Camp, and it is on Netflix. And it is an amazing documentary about the independent living movement. And, at the end, it does talk about that culmination of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973. So I advise everyone to look that up on Netflix. It is very moving. I cried. I did.
Wow, that's something I've not watched yet. I'll have to renew my Netflix subscription, because that sounds like something I definitely need to watch.
It was really wonderful. So now our interview today is, you did our interview today. So why don't you tell me about who you're going to be talking with?
I did. I had the pleasure of speaking with Jason Koger. Jason lost both of his hands back in March of 2008 after he came in contact with a downed power line. He received several thousand volts of electricity, which he'll tell us about later in the interview. And in order to save his life, doctors had to remove both of his hands below the elbow. And as he is the first bilateral hand amputee to receive 2 bionic hands. And it's what's really fascinating about Jason and his story is he has been able to use these hands and do things with the hands that the company, the designers of the bionics, didn't even know were possible. Just changing the oil in his car, hunting, fishing, just intricate little movements that they didn't even think were possible. And as a result, he's been featured on CNN. He's been in an episode of Hawaii Five-0, been featured on Dr. Gupta, and even appeared in a movie with Matthew McConaughey. So
really?
yeah.
Wow.
He's quite fascinating. I really enjoyed talking with him.
Excellent. That sounds great. So, all right, everyone, we're going to hear Lisa's interview with Jason Koger.
Welcome, Jason.
Thank you very much for having me.
If you would, take us back to that day, March 1st, 2008.
Yep. So March 1st, 2008 was the first warm day of the year. I don't know, it was probably in the mid 70s. It was beautiful outside. I had been working 7/12s prior to that. So, 7 days a week, 12-hour day shifts is what I was working, and making really good money, and putting extra money on my home so that I could get it paid down quite a bit, which by March 1st, I had paid quite a bit on my house, which obviously helped, because when I went through my accident, I couldn't work and couldn't pay for things that I had before. So definitely that had helped me out. But on March 1st, 2008, I woke up that morning, and probably the first day that I had a day off and wanted to do something with my kids. And my oldest daughter was 21 months old, and my youngest was 3 months old at the time of my accident. And I took them to Owensboro to go on a little train ride at the mall. And we went and did that, came home, laid them down for a nap, and then decided that I was going to go on a quick four-wheeler ride around my grandfather's farm, which literally was a 5-minute ride. It was, I don't know, a quarter of a mile long, something that I've been around this farm my entire life. So, I tell people whenever you're at your house and the lights are out, and in the middle of the night, you want to walk to the bathroom or go to the kitchen or whatever, you can get up without turning lights on and know exactly where things are, dressers are, and make it to wherever you're going, and not run into walls because you're so familiar with where you're at. And I felt like that around this farm because I've been around it my entire life. So went on this quick four-wheeler ride, and it makes a U shape, starts at my house, goes behind my house, U shape to my grandfather's. The second left-hand turn, there's a culvert. That's the only place you can go through. And there was a down power line that I didn't see. So the line was about 30 inches off the ground, and I came in contact with it. And at first, it didn't do anything to me. But then as I was trying to look to see where the line was going, it energized, and I took 7,200 volts of electricity. A lot of people, they don't even know what 7,200 volts is, but 7,200 volts is actually more than the electric chair. Electric chair is only 6,800 volts. But it was enough power that it stopped my heart for 30 seconds, because when you get electrocuted, it'll electrocute you for 30 seconds, and then it kicks the breaker. So I took 7,200 volts for 30 seconds. The voltage, the 7,200 volts was enough that it stopped my heart for 30 seconds. Came out of the bottom of my right foot, and actually they found my tennis shoe 30 feet from where I was laying.
Oh my goodness. How did you survive that? That's a miracle.
Yeah, there's not very many people that do survive 7,200 volts, really. You know what I mean? It's that's a lot.
Now, your cousin was with you, right?
Yes. So my cousin was behind me whenever I got injured, and he knew that I got electrocuted. And my cousin don't speak a lot about it, to be honest with you. I really think that he thought that was the end of my life. I think he thought that, he said that it looked like 4th of July was coming off my off my body, which, sparks were going everywhere. And when you get electrocuted, it actually burns you from the inside out, is what it does. It exited out my left thumb as well. So it pretty much blew my left thumb, was just barely hanging on. It basically blew it off. But other than that, it ripped my tendons off the tips of my fingers. So all 10 of my tendons were wrapped around my wrist. So I looked like a stroke victim, where my hands they were curled up. And my hands would have never worked, even if they did save them. But when you get electrocuted and it burns you from the inside out, it causes poisonous toxins inside your body, and the poison has to go somewhere, so it goes through your kidneys. So I was life flighted to Vanderbilt Hospital, and when I went to Vanderbilt in the helicopter, they had cathed me, and the urine bag that was beside me looked like Dr. Pepper. And what that is that's all the blood and poison going through your body, which was shutting my kidneys down. And ultimately, when I made it to Vanderbilt, it was a life or death situation because of all the poison and the chemicals that were inside my body. They had to find where the infection was and get rid of the infection. And the infection for me was in both of my hands. So immediately they had to amputate in order to save my life because of my kidneys.
Do you find sharing your story now, like, I would assume, and for me, every time I share my story, because I've been asked, lots of times over the year how I've lost my vision, it takes a little of the, I guess, the sting out or the power of that day, and it becomes easy. Have you found that as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, I think things happen for a reason. And, I feel like my reason is to share with others that no matter what you go through, that you can get through it, and no matter how bad it is, or I think some people look at my story and they're like, how can it be any worse than losing 2 arms? Well, I don't know what it's like to lose 2 legs, right? I don't know what it's like to lose vision or lose hearing or lose whatever it is. I mean, we're all blessed with so many good things in our life and things that we can all need and use. And whenever something is taken away from you, you have to use that for whatever, for however you can, in a positive way, to show everybody that, at the end of the day, God does all things for a reason and in a positive way. And that's why I love sharing my story now. I share my story because I feel like I can inspire others to overcome anything, whatever they're going through.
Yes, I've heard someone put it in a really good way once that always stuck with me. He said, focus on the things you can do and not the thing. If you focus on the things you can't do, it will steal the joy from the things you can do. And
Yep.
I'm like, that's so true. Can you tell me what it was like when you first woke up in the hospital?
Yeah. When I first woke up, my dad told me, basically, I didn't know I was going to lose my arms, right? I was in a induced coma for 3 days. And I really didn't, whenever he told me that I lost my arms, I think the first thing that went through my mind was not, how am I going to be able to live or survive or feed myself or dress myself or whatever. I didn't think about all that stuff. I just kept on thinking about my kids that, at the time I had 2 little girls, and now I have 3 kids. But at the time, having 2 kids, the most important thing is for them to still have their dad, right? And the other stuff, and I say little stuff, but the dressing yourself, feeding yourself, and doing things on your own really wasn't as important of anything out of my entire life. Nothing was as important of just being a dad, being able to teach my kids, walk across the street with my kids, play baseball, do the things that everyone wants to do. And So I think in the back of my mind, I just kept on and kept on thinking, how can I still be the dad that I wanted to be? And that was most important.
And you say your doctor came in and asked you something or made a proposal to you the day you woke up. Can you tell us what that was?
Yeah. So Dr. Guy was my doctor, and he came into the hospital room and he sat down with me, and he explained to me basically why they had to amputate because of the poisonous toxins inside my body. And he told me, he said, Jason, you're going to be in the hospital for months. And he said, before you get out of this hospital, I want you to think of maybe one goal that you have and make sure that it is realistic. And I want to try to help you reach that one goal that you have. And he said, so I want you to sit and think about what that goal is. And again, make sure that it's something that's realistic. And he stood up to walk out of my hospital room. And I told him, I said, Dr. Guy, I know what I want. I know that the goal that I have, and I do want you to help me reach this goal. And he said, what is the goal that you have? And I told him, I said, if I can hold my kids again, that's all I care about. At the time of my accident, my oldest was 21 months old and my youngest was 3 months old. And again, I wasn't worried about how I was going to be able to dress myself or feed myself. I just wanted to be able to hold my kids again. And I'll never forget him looking at me and telling me that would happen. And so anyway, I think it was the next day or maybe a couple of days later, Dr. Guy walks in my room and he sits down with me and he says, hey, Jason, your kids are here to see you. I'm going to bring them to the waiting room. Into your room. And I said, no, I don't want my kids in this room, because at the time, I had tubes hanging out of my arms, didn't have hands. I had heart monitors. I had feeding tubes, catheters. I was hooked up to all kinds of stuff. And I remember, telling him that I didn't want my kids in my room like that. They're already going to be scared of me with no arms. I don't want them to see me with all this other stuff hooked up to me. And again, he told me I was going to be in this hospital for months. So that day I talked him into unplugging me, taking the feeding tubes out, catheter out, and he got me up. He got me out of the bed. And that very day I went to the waiting room, and that was the first day that I held my kids. Now, my oldest, Billy Grace, was 21 months old, and she was still scared to get in front of me, but she would come up from behind me and put her head over my shoulder and talk to me. But Campbell was 3 months old, and I held her for the first time, and that was probably 4 or 5 days after losing both my arms. And that one goal that I reached, I knew that when it happened, I had a peace that I felt, that I knew everything was going to be okay. Everything was going to work out. My life was going to be great. I was going to make it great. And I reached the first goal that I ever tried to do. So I knew life was going to be hard, but I knew it was going to be, I would be able to overcome this situation.
Wow. And you made that goal that what, the first day or the second, or really early on?
It was the first day I was awake that I made that goal. I was in an induced coma for 3 days. So that was the very first day that I was awake, that I wanted to do that was my goal. And I think it was the day after. So it was either the 5th or the 6th day of losing my hands was the day I reached that goal.
It's amazing what motivation our children provide. Your children, your family, they will motivate you to do things and find strength in yourself you did not know you had. So I think it was really fortunate for you that you had children at the time. Do you think it might have been different if you didn't have that motivation?
I know that I feel like just knowing that I had 2 kids at home that needed their dad, I'm sure was a huge benefit for my success or for my overcoming. And I don't know how I would have felt if I didn't have that. I mean, I was 29 years old, freshly married with, starting a family. And, was it my age that made it better? Or, I don't know. I mean, I think it all comes down to, the community that I had around me, the friends that I surround myself with, the family that I had, the age. I mean, everything lined up. The faith. I think faith is one of the biggest things you have to have in order to succeed through any kind of a bad situation or a bad accident or whatever it is. Because at the end of the day, every single person is going to go through a bad day, a bad time. It may not be physically, it may be mentally, but everybody is going to go through a hard time. And we all have to be prepared to overcome whatever that is. And it may be something a lot smaller than what I went through, but it may be something that's a lot bigger than what I went through. And
tell me what it was like coming home for the first time.
so whenever I first got home, I was actually, like I said, supposed to have been in the hospital for months. And I worked extremely hard to get home. And I asked Dr. Guy the things that I had to do in order to get home and the goals that I had to reach in order to come home. And I reached all those goals. So 12 days after losing both of my arms, I was released from the hospital. I came home back to Owensboro. And now that you're from here, you may know where this is, but when you get on Frederick Street and you go south, it turns into 431. And I just live just south of the mall, the old mall. And there's a church on the right-hand side before you get to my house called Panther Creek Baptist Church. And that day that I made it home, which nobody knew I was coming home that day, somebody had called them on my drive home, and they went out and they put a message on the board that I could see, and it said, "Welcome home, Jason. We've been praying for you." I will never forget seeing that sign. The people in this community, and I wish that every place was like this one, but people in my community came to my house. They brought us meals. They cleaned our house. They would babysit or watch me and let Jenny go to town just to have her time, which is my wife. They would, do everything that we could ask for anybody to do for us. And some of them were complete strangers. When I was injured and I lost my arms, I felt like I was the only person in the world that had lost an upper limb. I'd never seen anybody but one person. My grandfather, he lost one arm and he passed away about 3 months before I was injured. And he was the only person that I've ever seen in my life that lost an arm. And then when I lost mine, I felt like I was the second person in the world to ever lose an upper limb. And obviously, the last 16 years, I have met people all over the country that has lost one arm, two arms, all four. And I set out this mission when I first got home that I was going to share my story with as many people as I could share my story with, in hopes that I would meet new amputees and help them in this journey that I had on my own, and share with them my story, my experiences, the things that I've learned, and be that encouragement or that resource that they need. And I've been very successful at doing that. And I don't do that for money. I don't get paid to do that. I don't think that anybody could pay me enough to get the satisfaction that I get whenever I work with new amputees, and I get to see their first smile, and I get to see their eyes light up whenever they get hope. You know what I mean? And the smile that they get, knowing that their life is definitely going to be different, but it's still going to be okay.
Now, when you got home, you hit the road running, right? Tell me about your first drive.
The day I got home, so that was 12 days after my accident. My wife had went to town to get some groceries, and my mom was sitting at my house with me, and she came and she told me I went to her and I said, "Hey, Mom, where's the keys to my truck?" And she said, "I don't know, on the counter." "Why?" And I said, "Because I want to see them." So I remember her giving these keys and saying, "What do you want me to do with them?" And I said, "Just put them in my mouth." And she said, "Well, I'll just go outside with you." And I said, "Mom, I don't want you to. I just want to go outside and I want to see what I can do for myself." And I remember her putting these keys in my mouth and me going outside and doing everything that I could do to open the door. And I used my mouth, my teeth, my feet. I mean, everything that I had in order to open this door. And it might have took me 15 or 20 minutes, but I finally got the door open to my truck, and I got in my truck and I got the key in the ignition and I got it started. And once I did that, I thought, you know what? I got to try to drive. And I drove around my grandfather's farm just 12 days after losing both of my arms. And
Yes, absolutely. And you can never define yourself by what people say you should be or what you can or cannot do. I've learned that early on. It sounds like you definitely have that spirit about you. Another story I've heard you tell, and we have to tell this one because it's just so, it's so fun. Tell us about turkey hunting.
so I love the outdoors. I love to hunt. And March, March 1st when I got hurt. April is when turkey season comes in. So just a little over a month after my accident, my buddy called me. He's one of my best friends. His name's Sam Smith. And so Sam called me and he said, "Hey, let's go turkey hunting." And I thought about it for a minute and I thought, "Sam, how can I go turkey hunting? I don't have prosthetics. I'm still bleeding. I'm still wrapped up. I cannot do this." And he said, "Sure you can. I think I got it figured out." So I called my doctor. And at this time I had became super good friends with my doctor. And I was texting him back and forth. And I text Dr. Guy and I said, "Hey, Dr. Guy, I got a question for you." I said, "Can I go turkey hunting?" And he sat there in silence for a minute. And he said, "Man, I don't know. I've never been asked this." And I said, "Well, can I go?" And he said, "Well, tell me why you don't think you can go." And I said, "Well, man, I'm more worried about a tick getting inside my open wounds and you having to amputate more off. Like, that's what scares me to death." And he told me, he said, "Well, just make sure that you spray off really good." I said, "Okay." So I went turkey hunting. I went with my buddy, and in the back of my mind, I was going to spray off really good with tick spray, and I was going to sit beside him and watch him kill a turkey. And I was completely fine with that. So we went to the woods. I went to his house that night, spent the night with him. And as we were sitting in his living room, he walks in. He says, "Hey, Jason, I think I got a way figured out that you can shoot a gun." And I was like, "Sam, I can't do that. I don't have hands. I don't have prosthetics." So he laid this shotgun in my lap, and he took the 2 screws out of the butt of the shotgun, and he strapped that gun to my shoulder. And he put a tripod on the front with a radiator hose clamp holding the end of the barrel up. And he put a string from the trigger to my mouth. And that, while we were sitting in his living room, I was dry firing this gun. And I told him, I said, "I think I can shoot." So the next day we went turkey hunting. And I think I missed the first couple birds that I even seen. But that day I killed my first turkey after losing both my arms. And it was just a little bit over a month after my accident.
Wow, that is cool that he made that gun for you. Like, or to rig it up like that. I need him to make me like some kind of blind gun, so like I can go shoot turkeys. And I don't know, I don't like turkey. Maybe deer. Do you think he could make me a deer shooting gun?
Probably so. And where do you live now? What state are you in?
I'm in Bowling Green, Kentucky. So
Oh, okay. Awesome.
yeah, I'm just down the road or up the road,
Yep.
whatever you call it. But that's really cool. And then have you ever had any really embarrassing moments since?
I mean, I absolutely had some embarrassing moments. Yes. Actually, everybody's favorite story is when I first got home. The first time we went to Owensboro as a family was Hobby Lobby. And it was me, my wife, my oldest daughter, Billy, and my middle child now, her name's Campbell. Campbell was 3 months old. Billy was 21 months old. And we went to Hobby Lobby, and I told Jenny, I said, you go shopping because I can't stand shopping. And I said, me and Billy will go walk around. So Billy and I were probably 3 or 4 rows over from where Jenny was, and I was carrying Billy, no prosthetics, and she got to kicking. So I set her down on the ground, and she went running away from me. So I yelled at her. I said, Billy Grace, get back over here. And she turned around and was running towards me with her arms wide open, fixing to jump in my arms and give me this big hug. And I tell people it was almost like a movie. Everything was slow motion and like the best feeling in the world as a, for a father. And she got to me, and instead of jumping in my arms, she grabbed me by my pants and she pulled my pants down to my ankles. So here I am standing in the middle of Hobby Lobby with my pants down to my ankles, and I'm trying to talk her into pulling my pants up. She won't. So I had to wobble 4 rows over to try to find my wife with pants down to my ankles, and you can't walk very fast when you got pants down to your ankles. And I finally found my wife about 4 rows over, and she was like, oh my gosh, this is so embarrassing. And I was like, yeah, I just lost my pants in the middle of Hobby Lobby. So she ran over to me. She pulled my pants up. And I said, it could have been worse. And she said, how can it be worse? You just lost your pants in the middle of Hobby Lobby. And I told her, I said, well, at least my underwear stayed up. It could have been nothing.
That is so true. I did. And I assume you weren't at the point where you were, wearing a belt, fastening a belt to prevent that kind of thing at the time.
No, they were jogging pants. That's about the best thing I could wear was jogging pants.
Oh my. Hey, you have to have that attitude and laugh at yourself. And I'm sure it was mortifying at the time, but looking back on it, it's kind of funny.
Absolutely, it's funny.
Now, eventually you did get prosthetics, right?
Did. Yeah. I went to my prosthetist when I was able to go talk to him, and I wanted to, I had done some research and found out about some bionic hands, and I wanted to look further into the bionic stuff. And so I went to a prosthetist, and we sat down, and I told him, I said, hey, I really would like to get these iLimb hands. And he told me, he said, man, I don't know if you'll ever be able to get these iLimb hands, because the iLimb hands are so expensive that you probably cannot, insurance will say no. Like, that's just what's going to happen. So I told him, I said, well, let's try it. And we tried to get accepted with these bionic hands, and I was turned down. I was rejected. I kept on fighting for it. And then I finally got accepted to get these bionic hands. I became the first person in the world as a bilateral arm amputee to be fitted with multi-articulating bionic hands, which they came out in 2008. So I was the first in the world with them. And then now I'm on my 5th generation hand. So I've been the first person in the world 5 times with the newest bionic hands that have ever hit the market.
Wow. Do you kind of work hand in hand with the company now, or kind of an ambassador for them?
I do. I'm an ambassador for them. It used to be called Touch Bionics back in 2008, 2009. And then the company got bought out from a bigger company called Össur. Össur is based out of Iceland with engineers in Scotland. Össur is, they have a U.S. headquarters in California. And then they have some people that work in Ohio is where they are. I get to travel around the world now and show people how prosthetics work. I get to go to all the amputee shows. I get to work with the engineers. I get to work with other amputees. It's really opened up a lot of doors for me to do exactly what I told you I wanted to do, which was be a source of information for brand new amputees. And it has really shared my story in the amputee community bigger than I would have ever imagined. I mean, I've met people all over the world with multiple amputations, up to 4 amputations, or even down to just a few fingers. And I am more than willing and able and excited to work with every single amputee I've ever had that opportunity to work with, and try to get insurance companies to understand that the prosthetics that are out there will never replace your real hand, but it comes really close to it. No matter the price, everybody deserves to get something that gives their life back. And if it's hooks, hands, or whatever it is, a patient or myself deserves to get the best thing to make their life as close to normal as they can.
If you don't mind, kind of describe your hands, because this will be just audio. So, yeah, describe how they operate and function.
So I have 2 different sets of hands. I have the body powered that people have seen since Civil War days. It's just the hook. It basically, rubber bands keep it closed, and there's a cable that opens and closes it. And the cable goes around your shoulders. So when I move my left shoulder forward, all I'm doing is pulling a cable for my right arm to open. So it's opposite shoulder to hand. Those are body powered. And then the myoelectrics are multi-articulating fingers, means there's 6 different motors in the hand. I cannot just hold one finger up or a 2 finger or whatever. I can hold fingers and style them out. But the way it works is I have sensors that lay on my muscles. So when I feel like I raise my wrist in the air, it opens the hand. And when I lower my wrist, it closes the hand. So it just opens and closes. But then when I co-contract, it basically tells the hand that, hey, he wants to go into rotation now. And then when I raise my wrist, it rotates up. When I lower my wrist, it rotates down. And it will keep on going 360 degrees until I let go of the muscle. And then you co-contract to get back into open and close. But it also has an Apple app. So the hand knows where it is in space. So when I hold open, if the hand's wide open and I hold open and the finger flicks, then I can move forwards, backwards, left or right to go into certain grips that I can set up with an Apple app. So I can get to a pinch, I can get to whatever those things are, I can get to, which is, it sounds complicated, but it's really not once you do that.
Jason, do you have any last words of wisdom for any of our listeners today before we go?
So I just wrote a book, and if anybody wants to get on my website, it's just jasonkoger.com, KOGER.com. I'm selling my book there, but I wrote this book just to share the story of inspiration, or a story of overcoming and showing that my faith and my attitude is truly what got me through what I've been through. And the name of the book is called Handed a Greater Purpose. And I thought of that because no matter the situation, no matter what we're going through, we all have to understand that God has a greater purpose for each and every one of us. And if you have that faith and you know that God has a bigger plan for us, then somehow, some way, life just keeps going on and keeps moving forward. I just want people to know that sometimes when you go through a bad situation, that you will be handed a greater purpose. And that's why I named my book Handed a Greater Purpose.
That is such a great title, so appropriately titled.
Oh.
So, Jason, I just want to thank you again for coming on the program, sitting down with us, sharing your story. I know it will be meaningful and impact a lot of lives. So thank you.
And, I would love for people to follow me on Instagram or Facebook or any social media, and reach out to me on my website. I love helping people and hearing people's stories. And I would absolutely love anybody to contact me and share a little bit about their life, or maybe what my life has meant to them.
Absolutely. And where can they find you again?
JasonKoger.com. So it's JASON koger.com, or I have a public page on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I'm on TikTok. I'm on Snapchat. I'm on all the stuff. So
All
pretty
the
easy
things. You have teenagers now. They're making you get on all those things, right?
Exactly right.
Awesome. Thank you, Jason. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you.
If you like the podcast, remember to follow or subscribe so you never miss an episode. If you really like the podcast, we'd love it if you could leave us a rating or review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. That helps more people to find us. If you really, really like the podcast, then please tell someone about it, either in person or send them an email or just share the link on social media. Thank you all. Every bit helps, and it makes a huge difference for us. If you'd like a transcript, please send us an email to demandanddisrupt@gmail.com and put transcript in the subject line. Thanks to Steve Moore for helping us out with transcripts. Thanks to Chris Unkin for our theme music. Demand and Disrupt is a publication of the Advocado Press with generous support from the Center for Accessible Living located in Louisville, Kentucky. And you can find links to buy the book, A Celebration of Family, Stories of Parents with Disabilities, in our show notes. Thanks, everyone.
You say you've seen a change in me. Just for once I think I would agree. We both know there's a difference. We've had our curtain call, and this time the writing's on the wall. This war of words we can't defend. Two damaged hearts refuse to mend. This situation's pointless with each and every day. It's not a game we need to play. We try to make things better, repair and rearrange things, but each and every letter spells out the need for us to open up our minds and hearts to change. Throw the dice, then what will be will be. Disregard for good to set us free. There's just no way of knowing if love lives anymore. We'll turn out the light, then close the door. We try to make things better, repair and rearrange things, but each and every letter spells out the